What's up? Welcome back to Table Fellowship. Ellie here. Thanks so much for joining me today. Before we get started with some food, as always, I'm going to jump into the word and what I've been reading lately. And today's passage is a huge encouragement, because I know that I personally, neither can anybody else, can never do enough or be enough or ever earn enough to receive God's grace and his gifts. That being said, we're going to jump into Ephesians 2, starting at verse 8. For by grace, you have been saved through faith, and it is not of your own doing. It is the gift of God, not as a result of works, so that no one may boast. What is grace? Grace is us receiving something that we don't deserve, right? So by grace, us receiving something we don't deserve, we have been saved. God's gift is that grace through faith alone, in Christ alone, not a result of anything that we can do on our own, ever. Not a result of anything we can do on our own, ever. So that none of us can boast. It goes on to say in verse 9, I'm sorry, that was 8 and 9. In verse 10, for we are all his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which are prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. Right? So that's meaning that by grace we have been saved in faith alone through Christ alone. And then once we are saved, good works will come from that. But good works do not save us. And I know for me that's an encouragement, because I know I can never, ever do enough. So I hope that's an encouragement for you today who, if you are thinking about stepping into the Christian faith, or if you are a new believer and you're like, I have to do all this, I have to do all that, I have to do all that. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything, because it is by grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone. That free gift of grace that he has given us. That saves us. So, some food for thought for you. With that, let's cook some food. So for today's recipe, what we're going to do is the juiciest, most simple whole chicken that you'll ever do ever again, right? Ever since I started doing it with this method, this is the only way I'm ever going to make a whole chicken. It works both in the oven or on the smoker, depending on what you have. I have a smoker, so I'm going to be doing it on the smoker. What you're going to want to do first is preheat oven or smoker to 225 Fahrenheit. After that, we're going to prep our chicken. This one here, I had brining in a simple citrus saltwater brine for about 24 hours, actually. Pulled it out about an hour ago, patted it fully dry, and let it come to about room temperature. That's going to make sure that the chicken cooks all the way through at the same time and the same temperature, and you won't have cold spots somewhere in the middle. This is how easy this is, guys. We're going to coat it with a little bit of avocado oil. I'm going to give that a nice rub down. I'm using one hand for the raw chicken. The other hand's going to be for everything else. So this is my clean hand. This is my raw chicken hand. Ooh, I got these food gloves a while ago, and now I'm obsessed with them, and I love them. Next, we're going to do this barbecue rub. This has been my go-to favorite. I love it. I think my mother-in-law got me this as like a present when they came to visit from Texas. I want to say it's from like a Buc-ee's or something. I'm obsessed with it. I'm putting it on everything that I throw on the smoker right now. All we're going to do is we're just going to coat it. Once you get that sucker nice and coated with that beautiful seasoning, you can use any spice rub seasoning you want. You can make your own. I just have been loving this one, so that's why I'm using it all the time. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stuff in some few cloves of garlic. Now that I'm not going to be touching like my oil or this thing anymore, both hands can have the raw chicken on it. It's totally fine. Now we're going to do some onion. That's just about a quarter of an onion, and then a quarter of a lemon. It's a pretty small cavity in there, so you don't really need too much else. Perfect. Last step I'm going to do, you're going to get some twine. You're going to take its legs, and you're going to tie its legs together. All right. I'm just going to tuck these wings under here, so that way those wingtips don't burn. I could cut off the wingtips, but I just honestly don't care enough. Perfect. So now this guy is ready to go on the smoker once my smoker is preheated. While my smoker is preheating, I do want to make sure that anybody who's cooking a whole chicken knows how important it is to have a meat thermometer, right? This one is a smart meat thermometer that I have. It's connected to, where is it at? This base right here. This one's just a regular good old-fashioned meat thermometer, right? My Traeger has its own built-in one, so I'm going to be using that one because then it connects to an app on my phone. But regardless, whenever you do any type of whole chicken, whole poultry, anything like that, you're going to want to use a thermometer to make sure it comes to the correct temperature. We're going to cook this guy till it hits a temperature of 160. That's correct, not 165. The reason we cook it to 160 is when it's in its resting period, it will continue to cook more. The temperature is going to come up some more. So if you pull it at 165 and then it goes higher than 165, that's when chicken dries out. So don't do that. Wait and be patient and let it get to 160 and then pull it at 160. I promise you it's not going to be underdone. It's going to be so juicy, you won't even believe it. We're going to do this in two methods. We're going to do low and slow for the first 3/4 of its cook time. And then when we're about the 3/4 mark, we're going to bump the heat super, super high to get the skin nice and crispy. Again, both on the Traeger or on any type of smoker and the oven. This is how you can do that. All right, smoke is preheated. If your oven's preheated, this is obviously the time when you would do this. I'm going to insert my thermometer probe. I'm going to show you exactly where you want to put it, and then we're going to get this chicken directly on the grill grates on the smoker. You're going to want your thermometer probe to go in the breast, as close to the breastbone as you can, towards the front of the chicken. So, right, the back of the chicken is where the legs are pointing that way. Front of the chicken is where this head would be. I'm going to put this thermometer right in there. Perfect. I'm going to get this guy open. The chicken's just going to go directly on the smoker. See you later. Say hi to vacuum. All right, so when my internal probe hit about 135, I went ahead and I removed the chicken. So we're not quite done yet, but I removed it. And now I'm cranking the temperature of the smoker to 450. If you're doing this in your oven, take your chicken out and then get your oven up to 450. Once it hits 450, we're gonna put it back in for the last 25-ish degrees, and that's gonna help crisp up the skin. At this point, once you put it back in, make sure you keep a really close eye on the temperature probe, so once it hits 160, you pull it exactly. We pulled the chicken, and now we're gonna let her rest for at least 30 minutes before we carve into her. That's gonna allow all those juices to go right back where they're supposed to belong in the meat instead of going out of the meat if you carve too soon. So let it rest. All right, it's been 30 minutes. Let's carve into this guy so you see the juices. Oh my gosh. You see that? There you have it. Whole roast or smoked chicken in this case. Total cook time is about 3 hours, 3.5 hours if you include the rest time. I'll do a separate video on how to carve up a chicken so you can get, I did this one into 6 pieces. So I got the 2 wings here, the quarters, which is the leg and the thigh, and then the breast, but you can also carve it into 8 pieces. This is so juicy. The chef's part of a whole chicken is the wing here. So I'm just gonna, oh my gosh. Not even the wing is dry. And if you know the wing has moisture, you did it right. It's so flavorful because we brined it overnight. It's flavorful from the skin to the bone and everything in between. And the skin has got a nice crust to it. And the flavor of the seasoning is phenomenal. So thanks for joining me today on this episode of Table Fellowship. Make sure you share your food with others. I hope you all enjoy this recipe. As always, God bless. Thanks. Have a good one.
Don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube, follow on Instagram, as well as on Facebook. Thanks so much for watching. Till next time, and pass it to one of your friends.